Sam Stein here. I just want to add one thing. You look around, and this is a question for Mark, who was the president of the U.S. Conference of Mayors, so he can speak with some authority about this. But it's tough to see a even near or semi-long-term future for cities here. When Steve was referencing consumer spending, anecdotally, you look at restaurants and retail, and it's very difficult to see people getting to a comfort level where they go back into restaurants and feel comfortable going out at night, going out to bars, certainly like this. And I think you're starting to see a lot of the owners of those establishments sort of come to the recognition that their future is very bleak and maybe not even there, and they close down. So, Mark, as someone who's worked in urban politics, led the U.S. Conference of Mayors, give us your sense of the next half year for cities and for mayors and what they can do to stop the bleeding, if anything.
Let me say this as forcefully as possible. It is essential that the federal government step in and provide sustainability funds for cities and states so they don't have to add to the unemployment levels by laying off city workers and state workers. It is essential. We're in the Trump depression now. Secondly, absent extension of unemployment benefits and more fiscal stimulus from the federal government, this situation is going to get worse. We've got to stabilize things. We've got to put people first until we get the virus under control. This is a virus-induced depression, and the depression has been induced by mishandling of the virus. So for cities need sustainability funds. States need sustainability funds. People need an expansion and an extension of the enhanced unemployment benefits and other dollars. We've got to recognize the gravamen, the historic nature of this crisis, and that people, here we are, and we don't even know if schools can safely open in America. And that means children and their families at risk. So we've got to elevate the gravamen, the historic nature, the depth of this crisis. Americans, mayors have been on the front lines. Governors in many instances have been on the front lines. It's hypocritical to say we can bail out hotels and airlines, but somehow we can't help firefighters, police officers, teachers, revenue collectors, public works officers and social workers who work for cities, higher ed, who work for states. This is what we have to do right now. It's absolutely essential. And Steve's numbers show that we're in a funky situation. The numbers are not improving. At best, it'll flatline. In reality, the problem will get worse before it gets better.
Michael Steele is somebody that's obviously practiced politics, run one of the two major political parties. What are you looking at on Capitol Hill today, where you have actually with unemployment rate and GDP just plummeting, unemployment rate remaining high, the possibility of benefits running out today? Do you think a deal gets done?
Yeah, I think right now that's the scramble. I think probably what you're going to see, if not an outright deal, because the Democrats and the Republicans are so far apart. I mean, $2 trillion is not a chasm you can easily cross. So I think they'll probably will settle on an extension of current levels of funding for 30 days. Or maybe 2 weeks, somewhere in that time frame, to create a little bit more runway, Joe, so that they can come to some resolution. Republicans cannot break for the summer. They cannot break at all at this point with this hanging over their head. When you have Kodak seeing a 1,700% increase in the stock to the $200 million benefit of its CEO, and you're cutting benefits, that is a hard pill to take back home and swallow. So I see something there. And for the mayor, with that as a backdrop, or the economic piece, you also have this social disruption where the president is now deciding that urban centers need his engagement. He needs to send federal troops in. It is surprising to me that the mayor of Chicago accepted that offer for the president to send federal troops there to deal with local domestic policing issues. How do mayors balance this new reality with the president pushing this law and order agenda in their faces when they're trying to deal with COVID-19 financing and infrastructure issues, as well as the ongoing daily policing of their cities?
I mean, I think that the president's efforts to send in troops are going to backfire on him. It creates more tension in these cities. It's beyond what is constitutionally acceptable. Historically, what you have had is the federal government, ATF, DEA, FBI, would send people in to assist on the investigatory side of things like terrorism or gangs or drug dealings. But to send in armed officers, people on the street in military fatigues, is nothing but a provocative political act. And mayors should absolutely resist this because it's not going to be well received in communities. It will not have a positive effect. And it smacks of totalitarianism. It smacks of police state tactics. It smacks of things that are not American, that are not democratic, and are not in the best interest of the safety of American cities. So it should absolutely be resisted. What it will do is simply bring out more protesters.
Mr. Mayor, you're concerned right now with the census and how it's being conducted. What are you looking at specifically?
So we're concerned, Joe, and I'm glad you asked about the census. We're very concerned about the fact that the information that's coming out of the census now is that they're going to cut the time for the door knocker program. So early on, due to COVID, the census paused its actions and delayed the beginning of the door knocker program, which is sort of the last mile of the census. Right now, we've got approximately a 62% national response rate. That means there's 70 million American households that have not been counted. If, in fact, Census cuts off the door knocker program, Joe, which hasn't even really begun, then the American people are going to be cheated out of a fair and accurate census. So originally they said the door knocker program would run from the beginning of August through the end of October. Now they're saying they want to cut it off. Here's the fix. The fix is in the Congress. For the Congress to do as the House did, and that is to extend the date by which the Senate has to deliver census information in a certified fashion to April 30th instead of December 31st to give more time. Again, we need the additional time because of COVID, because of the delays occasioned by COVID. But without that, again, politics is being injected into the census. And I can say without fear of contradiction that the front line, if you will, experts in the Census Bureau who are career officials believe that the extension is necessary, and they cannot complete an accurate census if the time period is cut off.